Raider Nation, welcome back to Silver and Black today, an Odyssey Sports original podcast brought to you on video by our good friends at Sleeper and from Hog Media. We'll talk about that in a little bit. Also heard on the radio in Las Vegas, 1015 KDON and 840 KXNT. Do us a favor, subscribe wherever you get your audio. Don't forget, rate and review. We certainly appreciate that. For watching us on video, like there as well. Subscribe, hit the notifications bell. We are back talking Raiders football, coming away from the 41-24 drubbing of the Raiders by the Washington Commanders. Scott Gulbransen, along with my broadcast partner, Mr. Moton, senior NFL writer, over at Bleacher Report. Follow him on X at Moton, Moemoton. I am at LV Gully. The show is SNB Today. Well, Raider Nation's not happy. I don't blame them. But Mo, it's the first time you and I have had a chance to talk since the game. I've watched parts of the game again. One thing is clear, the Raiders' offensive line is the problem. There are other problems too. We go back to August when you talked about Brennan Carroll, the coach, Pete Carroll's son of this offensive line, his lack of experience there, no real record of success at that position, especially in the NFL. We're at an early point in the season, Mo. Usually I would tell people to relax in week 3, but the way this team is going backward, the way that you see it degrading over 3 weeks, especially up front on the offensive line, is not encouraging. And it seems to me that this problem might linger, especially when you have the head coach's son, in an important position.
Usually I say it's early, but there's been regression since week 1, it feels like. Jordan Meredith hasn't gotten better at the center position. It seems like he's gotten worse. And the Raiders have not done anything about the guard spot. Dylan Parham, in my opinion, is the Raiders' worst offensive lineman. He hasn't had one good game at left guard. Now, I was over at Bleacher Report Live after the game, and someone pointed out, and this is correct, that Dylan Parham was an average guard when he was on the right side. And I say this for maybe the 100th time. Not all offensive linemen can play both sides. Some guys are just quality or decent left tackles or left guards, and some guys can only play on the right side at an optimal level. Maybe that's the case with Dylan Parham, but it's clearly not working for him at left guard right now, and they need to make a switch now at that position. Yeah, I don't really quick, Scott. I don't think they're gonna move JPJ back to center. I think fans can say what they want, and you're allowed to have your own opinions, but don't get your hopes up about JPJ moving back to center. I'll talk about that later on.
Right. And it's also befuddling because I don't know. I said after the game on our post-game show, Mo, that at this point, why not open up the competition? I know Pete Carroll kind of said there's been competition there, but why not open? You had 2 offensive linemen you drafted early in the draft in 2025. I took a lot of questions about this, by the way. And both of them have been inactive every week so far, along with Raheem Mostert, which we've talked about, Mostert that we've talked about. So I don't understand. You're not seeing performance up there. If try to put yourself in the mind of the coaching staff, you just talked about that they're not going to put JPJ back at center. What's the mindset then of this Raiders coaching staff where they were not prepared, they were not focused, and they could not execute over the last 2 games, and it shows. I mean, talk about Ashton Genty. He has 57% of his carries, I should say, where he's hit behind the line of scrimmage. I don't see how you put lipstick on that pig.
I think it's more, I don't think it was unpreparedness. I think it's just a miscalculation of the talent. So they just remember they signed Alex Cappa to a 2-year, $11 million deal. That's not a contract you give to a guy who's going to be a backup. At the guard position, that's a guy that's going to compete for a starting job, if you look at his contract number. So it's very clear that they weren't very high on one of their guards, and it seems like it's JPJ. Jesse Merrick of the Silver and Black Sports Network had this post last Sunday night or Sunday after the game. And this is coming straight from Pete Carroll. This is not coming from me. He posted that the competition between JPJ, Jackson Powers-Johnson, and Alex Cappa is ongoing. So what that tells you is that they're not high. They're not nearly as high on JPJ as the fan base is. And there's been no mention from Pete Carroll or the staff that JPJ has been in consideration for the center job. So I'm gonna say this again. I know a lot of Raider fans want to see JPJ play center. It makes sense. He won the Remington Trophy Award for best college center in 2023. It makes absolute sense. I understand all of you when you say it. But for the coaching staff, they don't see it that way for whatever reason. He has not been mentioned one time from Pete Carroll about competing for the center job. It's been all about the right guard position, and he has not locked down that position because they feel like Alex Kappa may be a better right guard than JPJ. So I don't know what's going on with JPJ. I'm not in the business. I'm not going to speculate there, but do not get your hopes up this season under this coaching staff about JPJ moving back to center. It is probably not going to happen.
Yeah, and I have not been pounding that, although I could see it happening. I thought at least, open if it's an open competition, it's an open competition. Great, whatever. Then it's week to week by what is shown in practice. Even though one guy's getting the first team snaps, but I go back to my point yesterday, Mo, which was you drafted 2 offensive linemen, okay, in the 3rd round with Caleb Rogers and Charles Grant. Both have been inactive. So that tells me the coaching staff doesn't even think they're ready to be a rotational player if someone goes down with an injury. But you look at the rest of the Raiders roster, they might be saying it's early, but remember, you start 1 and 2 in the NFL, you only have a 25% chance of making the playoffs, right? That goes back 40 years based on statistics. Now the playoffs expanded, but Mo, the Raiders are basically out of it already. I mean, there's a 75% chance that they don't make the playoffs. We knew that they weren't going to make the playoffs. At least you and I believe that was going to be the case. But still, if you're this coaching staff, then what are you holding on to? Why continue to do what you've done, even though you're seeing complete regression?
My guess is Caleb Rogers and Charles Grant must be far from ready. Because you got to remember, you're not going to throw out 2 offensive linemen out there if they're going to put Geno Smith in even more harm. Now I know Geno Smith is taking a lot of hits anyway.
I was going to say
it doesn't. It can't be that much worse, right? But it can be worse.
It can be
to
worse.
have
no
to have a rookie out there that's completely lost, even though Dylan Parham looks completely lost at left guard. But it can be worse, or just as bad. And you don't want a rookie to lose his confidence out there, putting him out there before he's ready. You hear about this talk a lot about the quarterback position. That's the last thing you want to do with the rookie, is destroy his confidence before his career even really starts. So what it tells you is that those 2 third-round picks, and I expected the Charles Grant from William and Mary out of FCS. I know I'm not downgrading FCS programs, but the leap from him from FCS program to NFL was a bigger jump than Caleb Rogers going from Texas Tech to the NFL. I was hoping that Caleb Rogers would be ready just in case one of the guards didn't work out. I still think that if Caleb Rogers shows at least an ounce of promise, you put him out there, because Dylan Parham himself looks like a rookie out there lost. So can it get that much worse? It can, but what are the chances? I mean, at this point, you can't continue to trot Dylan Parham out there at left guard. And if you want to try and back out at right guard where he was last year, fine. But he cannot play left guard. It's very clear, and they need to get off of that.
And Mo, a lot of folks were talking to me on Sunday about, we had all this cap space and we didn't address the offensive line. You and I talked a lot about this during the summer, and that was, just because you have money doesn't mean people are available. Well, there were better options available than Alex Kappa, and they go to Becton, who was a big free agent. And I keep telling people, yes, there's definitely room here, and we'll get into it, to ask some questions about John Spytek and Pete Carroll's strategy for this season and what they believe they had up front. But we don't know that Becton wanted to play. Now he got hurt, of course, with the charge, but we don't know that he wanted to play. Everybody assumes that because you have the money and you can go get a player, that the player wants to play for your team. It's not the case, number one. Number two is, I asked for other names, not a lot of other names people give me. Now, Dalton Reisner, of course, ended up signing with the Bengals. I thought that was an option perhaps for them. They didn't think so. They didn't even try him out. So you look at that situation, the questions now turn to, what were the Raiders thinking that this offensive line would be good enough? That is an evaluation of talent. This offensive line is worse than it was at the end of last year. There's no question. Okay. So you look at that and you start to think, what is the common denominator? And I said it yesterday, as you've said since August. Well, you had questions in August. I said yesterday, the Brennan Carroll experiment is failed. It's done. I don't think you come back, because I don't see how you go from having an entire offseason switching players around on that line because you feel people aren't ready, whatever the reason is. And then you get to a game like you had yesterday where they look ill-prepared, unable to execute even the simple. I mean, you talk about Dylan Parham. Dylan Parham on several snaps that I watched stood up and didn't know where to go. So there has to be a coaching element here too.
It's got to be a coaching element. There's also a lot of people have pointed out there's probably miscommunications between the offensive linemen because they have to
Right.
communicate, amongst each other on plays. So there's enough blame to go around between the coaching staff and the players, but it's up to the coaching staff to see that it's not working and to change it, right? So you see your players out there struggling. It's one thing when the players are messing up on the field. Okay, so now you have to go and make the necessary changes, adjustments, or whatever it is. Now, quality guards and right tackles don't just fall out of the sky. So the Raiders are going to have to do a lot of in-house scouting to find out what the best 5-man combination is. And as I said, Pete Carroll is still figuring it out, and his staff, they're still figuring it out. He literally said after the game that there's an ongoing competition between JPJ and Alex Kappa. So that tells you they don't even know what's the best 5-man combination. And clearly they don't know because you can, if you've watched other offensive lines, and there are other bad offensive lines in the NFL. The Raiders offensive line, from my opinion, from my perspective, the worst offensive line in the league right now.
Mm-hmm.
The worst. No question.
Yeah, and Pete Carroll didn't even talk about the left side or at right tackle. Excuse me, right guard. So those are the questions we have, and they don't have a lot of answers. There is a lot of questions about what they did in the draft and how that relates to not drafting offensive line. I want to get into that here coming up in segment 2. We're going to continue this conversation. Segment 3, we're going to get right to your calls because we got a ton of them. We can't get to all of them. I mean, we had 40 calls. I can't get to all of them in one show, but we're going to first in, first out approach to this. So if you called in, I will do that. If you want to call in for next time, 702-900-7869. We're going to step aside real quick. Come back. We'll continue to talk about the Raiders, their issues up front, and some other issues they may be having on defense, maybe giving up 200 yards rushing. We'll talk about that coming back on Silver and Black today. You're with Mo and Scott. Don't go anywhere. All right, it's time to tell you real quick about our special offer with our sponsor, Sleeper Picks. Sleeper, where you play fantasy football? Well, you could play daily fantasy football. Not only that, you get a free $100 match on your first $100 deposit using our simple code GENTY. Yes, GENTY. Get a $100 match on that first $100 deposit to play Sleeper Picks daily fantasy football, where you get amazing odds and the opportunity to make some money. All right, so I'm looking at Thursday's game already as we take ahead. It is, of course, the Cardinals and the Seahawks. And I'm looking at this one and I'm saying to myself, okay, Sam Darnold over 209 yards against that Cardinal defense. Yeah, I think I will take, I don't know if he'll get to 209. I'm going with the 150 plus yards for Sam Darnold there. I think that's a no-brainer as well. Other Seahawks I'm looking, Jackson Smith, Njigba, over a touchdown. Will he get an anytime touchdown there? I say yes. So I'm picking that one. Then also, I'm going to take, of course, Marvin Harrison Jr., the two Ohio State wide receivers facing off one another there. 46.5 receiving yards. I'm actually going to choose less there. I think he's going to struggle against that defense. Look at that. $20 on daily fantasy football picks. Sam Darnold over 150 yards. Smith and Njigba over 1 touchdown, and Marvin Harrison under 46.5 yards. That's going to net me $85. Check out Sleeper Picks. Get a $100 deposit match using the code GENTY. That's GENTY. Make sure you check out the website or the app for terms and conditions, available in 25 states. Check out Sleeper Picks, official sponsor here of Silver and Black today. Welcome back. Segment number 2 here, Silver and Black. Today, we're talking about the Raiders, their loss to the Commanders, and what looks to be like another rough start to a season. Raiders now 1-2 face the Chicago Bears at home. The victorious Chicago Bears, who won on Sunday, looked a lot better than they have in previous weeks. So Raiders seem to be going in the other direction. Could be another trouble spot for the Raiders at home. Do us a favor, make sure you subscribe to the podcast wherever you get your audio. Don't forget to rate and review. Thank you again to our sponsor on video, Sleeper, and folks at Hog Media for getting that for us. We appreciate it. All right, Mo and Scott back talking about the Raiders. Mo, a lot of people came at me. You know how much, and I'm riding this into the sunset. I still believe Ashton Genty was the right pick at 6. Yes, the Raiders need help at offensive line. Yes, you can go back and second guess any decision that's ever been made. It's not going to help. The decision was made. You got Ashton Genty. What else could have been done with that offensive line? Heard a lot of people say, well, we got to trade people and move up and get a top 5 offensive lineman. By the way, nobody wants to trade a top 5 or top 10 offensive lineman. Okay. It's not like people have 14 of them hanging around and you can just get rid of one because you have so many of them. They're hard to get. That's why you have to draft and develop. The Raiders drafted 2 in the first 3 rounds in this draft. As we mentioned in the previous segment, not ready clearly to take on any action for this team. When you look at the Genty pick and the Monday morning quarterbacking of it, in relation to John Spytek, the rest of his draft class so far, it's only 3 weeks in. Remember, you can't judge a draft class in 3 weeks. But I think fans are frustrated because they don't see some of the biggest issues on this team being addressed, although running back was one of them.
Right. It's all about, Scott, you know where I stand on the draft pick, right? Yeah. We had different opinions on what the Raiders should do.
Yes, we did.
You said Ashton Genty, I said Armand Membu, right? And you know why I said Armand Membu. I'm not going to go back and say what they should have done. What's done is done now. But Scott, they had, in my opinion, you can go back and listen to the show. For me, right tackle was one of their biggest needs as well.
Yes,
they had a need at running back, and they addressed that with Ashton Genty. Fine. But I felt like right tackle, and I said it multiple times, DJ Glaze allowed 51 pressures as a rookie last year. 51. And people wanted to bring up, Colton Miller allowed a bunch of pressures as a rookie. Colton Miller played through an MCL sprain. For as we know, DJ Glaze was completely healthy throughout his whole rookie year. And as I said, I work over there at Bleacher Report. We have a very good scout in Brennan Thorne. He said DJ Glaze is a guard. DJ Glaze's future in the NFL is probably a guard because he's not fleet of foot. You cannot put him on an island. And we've seen it over and over again now. So I felt like right tackle was just as big of a need. And if they had gone on Membu, I'd have been like, it makes sense, right? You build, in my opinion, my philosophy has always been you build a roster inside out. Line play, then you go out and you get your skill players because your line play elevates the level of production for your skill players for the most part. But what's done is done. They picked Genty at 6. Now the question is, how do they fix this? How do they get the most out of him? How do they optimize his talent? And as I said, at the right tackle spot, I think they also have to consider a change there. DJ Glaze in some games okay with his run blocking, but I remember looking up, and Ryan McFadden of ESPN posted this, and this is probably early in the third quarter. By early in the third quarter, DJ Glaze had allowed 4 pressures and 2 sacks. Now, I know he's going up against Von Miller, but this is the older Von Miller. Von Miller still can be effective.
Yeah.
But this is still Von Miller later stages of his career. And it's not like DJ Glaze, this is the first game DJ Glaze had issues with in pass pro. Talked about this. So what are they going to do about, you said it, what are they going to do about the right side? Are they going to move? Do you experiment with moving DJ Glaze inside? Maybe, as I said, Brennan Thorne over Bleacher Report said he probably has a future at guard because he's not fleet of foot. Can't put him on an island. Something has to change, Scott. Something has to change. So that's before this Bears game.
Yes, that's my point, Mo. And again, it's early in the week as we record the show, so we don't know if they're going to make changes. We might not know till later in the week, or at least until somebody can see something in practice. But that's the point I made on Sunday after the game with Murph and I, which was, you can't just roll it out again as you did the first 3 weeks. To me, you're right. Glaze moving inside, fine. Why not try it? Can you do worse? You can't, right? Then you think about what you're going to do at tackle. But I just think too, you're right. Going back and questioning, everybody's questioning the Genty pick. I understand it. And you and I disagreed on it, but nobody talks about the second round. There were plenty of good offensive linemen available in the second round. You took Jack Besh. I'm not saying Jack Besh is a bad player. Raider fans seem to like him a lot too. But you took Jack Besh in the second round. Do you know how many offensive linemen were available in the second round? A lot. And they took 2 in the third round. So there's plenty of those questions once the season rolls on and gets to completion to ask to look back at the draft class and to look back and see what this team did. But I think fans, again, we were trying to be, and remember, a lot of people criticized both of us for being negative. 7-8 wins. Well, we're better than the Broncos, and we're better than this team, and the Chargers will suck again. Chargers are going to win the division. I'm calling it now. They're 3-0 in the division. All three of their first games were against division rivals, and they won all three.
Someone on the show said they would win the division. I'm not sure who.
Yes, you did. So that in itself shows you, again, what we always say, other teams get better too. The Raiders are going through a struggle with all of this. We didn't talk about the defense, Mo. The defense gashed. I talked about fans always looking for positive, which I appreciate. Fans after the game, I was railing on the fact that they gave up 201 yards rushing. Oh yeah, but 170 that was in the first half. Well, that doesn't make it any better. Just because they didn't give it. And by the way, Washington kind of didn't have to do what they did in the first half. They ran all over that defense. And Murph even brought up, and you didn't get a chance to see it, Mo. Murph even brought up the fact that, hey, when are we going to hold Max Crosby accountable for his own performance, right? Because Max Crosby, everybody loves him. He is a great player, not taking anything away from him. But that defense did not show up. Max Crosby's comments after the game said, we failed in all three levels of this game, all three facets of the game. Of course, special teams, we all know that, defense and offense. So when you get to that stage, and I think this is what befuddles people, is when you have a team that goes out there and is just completely dead in every way, there has to be some accountability. A lot of people went after Patrick Graham. Patrick Graham's not on the field. Is there something he can do? But I think it goes back to what we talked about all offseason. You got to have the Jimmies and the Joes, man. And the Raiders roster has holes all over it, and we said it would all season.
Raiders roster has holes, yes. But this is a defense that allowed the fourth fewest rushing yards going into Sunday's game. Right. They didn't allow a rushing touchdown in the first 2 weeks of the season. Something went wrong there. We have no clue what it was, but you don't go from being a good run defense to allowing 200 plus yards. It, for whatever reason, weren't prepared, didn't give enough effort. I don't know what it was. I'm not going to question effort because I wasn't out there. Mm-hmm. But something went terribly wrong there. Night and day performance from the run defense. As Max Crosby correctly pointed out, all three phases were poor. So the team, as a team, they weren't prepared. Yeah. Offense, I said it Sunday. Offensive line was trash. The run defense was trash, not good. And then the special teams. The first play of the game, Debo Samuel takes it downfield, puts Washington in good field position. Marcus Mariota finishes the drive with a rushing score. Then you had Jalen Lane later in the game score on that return for a touchdown, the rookie. So all three phases of the game, they were outmatched, beaten, and they had no chance. And then you could see it very early that they had no chance. And I don't want to hear, short week, coming off of Monday Night Football, going west to east. I don't want to hear the excuses, because usually what a good team does when they get their butts kicked in front of everyone in a primetime standalone game, they come back focused and they look sharp the following week. The Raiders are clearly not a good quality team right now.
And the Chargers had a short week too. What'd they do? So
and they beat the Broncos. Yep.
Exactly, a big divisional game. So it's there's no excuses there. And I do think you're right. I think the preparation, which goes, I was railing on the coaching a lot, because I did it when Antonio Pierce was the coach. I'll do it when Pete Carroll's the coach. When you don't look prepared to play, again, to your point about effort, we can't speak on effort because we're not playing the game. But when it comes to preparation, this team, again, for the second week in a row, seems surprised. Now, the first 2 weeks ago, Geno Smith, the big interception on the first play of the game. This one, the kickoff return. Again, big plays. You have to be on the other side of big plays. You can't be on this side. And yes, Trey Tucker had a good game. Trey Tucker also had an advantage in that on several of those long receptions, broken coverage, right? So not to take anything away from him, because I think he's doing great this year, but still. So it's hard to find the positives in this performance. One last thing before I take our break and get to this bunch of calls that we have, Mo, is Geno Smith. A lot of people railing on Geno Smith. He's trash. I don't understand what you want the guy to do when he's running for his life every second. When you're running for your life every second, what do you expect him to do? He's not He's not going to walk on water. He's not going to make plays when he has no time to throw. And now I'm at the point now this offensive line is getting so bad that you have to worry about his safety and what that would mean for this team if Geno Smith weren't able to play.
He's not gonna last, Scott. He's not gonna
That's
last.
my point.
He's not gonna last past the midway point of the season if he keeps taking sacks at these rates. He has a similar problem as Ashton Jeanty does.
Yes.
Where yes, some of the blame may go on them. There's some things that Ashton Jeanty obviously could do better. Geno Smith at times holds onto the ball a little too long, in my opinion. But when you have to basically hightail it out of the pocket because the pocket is collapsing on you within the matter of seconds, I mean, how much more can you do? And then the deep passing game suffers because you have no time for plays to develop downfield because you're worried about the pass rush. So I think people who come out and rail on Geno Smith just didn't like the acquisition to begin with. So this is their time to kind
And they're just
of
frustrated.
get on their soapbox and rail on it. But we all can see that the offensive line is the glaring and biggest issue with this football team right now, and it's impacting other parts of the game, i.e. the passing game and the ground game.
Right. Same thing with people saying, how did you not get the ball to Bowers? He's not healthy. Well, he might not be 100%, but Brock Bowers was out there. There were a couple passes in his direction that were hurried and sailed high, and other times when he didn't get a chance. He's not even getting a chance to get the ball because Geno Smith has to run for his life. I'll say it again. But anyway, so that's it. So we're going to watch that. We will, of course, on Thursday, tell you of any movement in this roster or in this lineup, as well as have a guest. We'll have a guest talking about the Chicago Bears, who the Raiders will host Sunday in Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas for the Raiders' next game, of course, Week 4's matchup. So we'll see. Now, we're going to take our final break. When we come back, we're going to get to your phone calls. Geez, I bet you have a little to say. It's Mo, it's Scott. This is Silver and Black Today, the Raider Nation Switchboard, coming up next. Welcome back, home stretch here on this Tuesday edition of Silver and Black Today, talking about Raiders football. Now, we're turning it over to a very salty, rightfully so, emotional, angry, upset, disappointed Raider Nation with the Raider Nation Switchboard. If you want to call to be a part of the next show, 702-900-7869, 702-900-7869. And don't get discouraged if you call and it doesn't get on one show. We try to get to all of them. Like I said, we had so many calls this time, as you can imagine. I can't we would be on the air for 4 hours. I just can't do that. So I take them first in, first out. Best thing you can do is call right after the game or to call Tuesday, early Wednesday to get your call in, and then we'll do our best to do that. So we'll go to that. All right. Now, making his return after several months away from the Raider Nation Switchboard, it's our good buddy Jacob in Fresno. Here's Jacob.
Went on Sunday. Gentlemen, I have yet another excuse. This week's excuse is the same as last week's
Mo,
excuse.
I'm going to have to go back and start that over. You didn't hear it, did you?
Is terrible.
Yeah, that's what I was pointing
Our
to.
offensive line
Can you hear it now?
would be
I can hear it
ranked 25th, perhaps, in the national, in
Okay.
whatever the NCAA stands for. I can't think at this moment.
Let me see.
Guys.
Okay, we'll do this.
When you first put it on, I can hear like the whispers, but it wasn't loud enough to hear what he was saying.
Yeah, because you were hearing it through my headphones probably. Okay. Jacob from Fresno. Here we go. I'll just play the call.
Scott, Gulbransen, and Midtown Moton. This is Jacob from Fresno. What's up, guys? Yeah, I'm calling seconds after the end of regulation of the game. Admittedly, I didn't really watch much of the first half. I was preoccupied in the Lord's name, praising the Lord, and I am glad, so glad, that is what I'm preoccupying my time with, because woe is me if you are a Raiders fan. Woe be unto you if you dare to don the silver and black in such a dark and depressing time to be a Raider fan, to be a fan of an organization that is just committed, so committed to finding every single excuse as to why we can't win on Sunday. Gentlemen, I have yet another excuse. This week's excuse is the same as last week's excuse. Our offensive line is terrible. Our offensive line would be ranked 25th, perhaps, in the national, in whatever the NCAA stands for. I can't think at this moment. Guys, it is bad. We are down bad. What are we going to do about this O-line? Because Alex Kappa can't block. When Jackson Powers Johnson plays, he can't block. Colt Miller's starting to look like he can't block. The reverberating whatever, the position switch we make every week at right tackle, those combinations can't block. We don't have an offensive line that can start in the NFL. These guys would be backups in every other team. So my question this week, what are we going to do to be able to get Ashton Jeanty to not get touched as soon as his hand touches the football? What are we going to do to keep Geno Smith upright and not running like a chicken with his head cut off? And what are we going to do for the offensive line? Is there anything we can do? Could we trade Colton Miller for 2 solid guards? Could we do something? Is there any possibility of that happening, or is our season just already ruined? Do we have any chance? Help me out, guys. Talk me off the cliff. Appreciate you. Go Raiders.
There you go, Jacob in Fresno. Mo, there's no easy answer here. The way to get better, I'm not going to say they're going to get all the way there, because we talked about the lack of talent. The only way to get there is to develop what you have, whether it's some of the players that are in there now or some of the players that you have in reserve, including to the 2 draft picks who don't appear ready. So it's a quandary. It's a tough one. I don't say you give up on it yet, but if you don't start to see some marked improvement here, then it can only get worse, I believe.
Fans are going to want to hear this, but until they figure out their offensive line, they're going to have to pare down their passing game. That means a lot of short, quick passes, get the ball out quick. Yeah, I can see a lot of deep throws down the field, unless you have those minimal snaps where you have good pass protection. But in order for Geno Smith not to get hit as much as he's getting hit, he's taking 12 sacks, by the way, in 3 games. And in order for Geno Smith not to get hit as much as he's getting hit, and in order to get Ashton Jeanty going somewhat without giving him the ball on the ground, is to lean on the short passing game. Short, quick passes, as I said, quick completions, get the ball out, move the ball downfield, get your players in space, and see what they can do. You have Trey Tucker, you have Dante Thornton Jr., who have the speed. Jacoby Myers not a speed guy, but he has reliable hands for the most part, right? So quick, short passes. It's a very boring offense, but it's the only thing that's going to help the Raiders move the ball consistently without getting their main players hit play after play.
And Mo, you also have Ashton Jeanty that you can do quick passes, swing pass to. I don't know why he's not been used in that way like he was in college. And then we won't even get into the Raheem Mostert situation, why you have a 33-year-old running back on the roster, but then he's a healthy scratch every week. He also is good in that game. When he's healthy, that's fair, but he appears to be healthy. We haven't heard, he's not on the injury report. That's not why he's inactive. So I think this is where people had a lot of excitement and confidence in Spytek and Carroll and Chip Kelly and all that. And now after 3 weeks, they're kind of like, what is going on here? There doesn't seem to be a clear reason. So we'll see how it all goes. But yeah, no easy answers. All right. Dominique out in the Show Me State. Here's Dominique.
Hey, Scott and Moses, Dominique from the Show Me State. How you guys doing? It's currently the 4th quarter, and the Raiders are getting shellacked 34-10. Why am I not surprised? Different coach, different GM, different OC, same result. The O-line is absolutely pathetic. I mean, every time Geno drops back, the pocket is collapsing. He's running for his life back there. This is why I had no expectations coming into the season. I said 7 wins. I don't think we're going to get to 7 wins. I think it'll be another 4 wins, maybe 5, 6 at best. The issues that we have, these issues can't be fixed within the season. These issues can only be fixed in the offseason. I know we had some fools saying we were a double-digit win team, playoff team. I just laughed at them. I don't know why every year we have high expectations and think we're going to the playoffs and we're going to win the double-digit games. I really don't understand it. This team hasn't proved anything. We won 4 games last year. Let me know what you guys think, but this is definitely another wasted season. I'm just not surprised. I'm really not. I'm just surprised that every year the nation has high expectations for this team. When I try to tell people every year, hey, lower expectations. We're not a good football team. I mean, you look at this roster, it wasn't constructed great. It really wasn't. Let me know what you guys think. Of course, I'll be listening as always. Appreciate you guys. Have a good one. Bye.
All right, there's Dominique. Always a good call. Can't disagree with any of that. All right, we're going to move on to Josh. But yes, Mo, real quick on Dominique's call. I don't think it gets addressed this season. I think, and yeah, if you get, hey, the only positive you can look at, and I know it sucks because it's only September, is you might get another top 8 pick in the draft.
Dominique says what he said about it not getting fixed during the season because, as I said in the first segment, you don't just get quality tackles and guards out of free agency at this point of the year. Those guys are on rosters and they're starting. Right. So unless you make some massive trade, you're not going to get better at offensive line. So you have to wait until the offseason to get some quality guys in there. So Dominique is 100% on that. But Scott, really quick, what did I say in the offseason? If the Raiders win 7 games, that is a massive improvement for them with the way the roster is set up. And Dominique said it too, that the roster wasn't constructed well. And this is why I said 7 wins would be great for the Raiders because of the problems that they have across this roster. Right. And a lot of people said, oh, you're too low. You're not a real fan if you don't think we're going to win 10, 11 games. Remember those calls, Scott? Plenty of calls that call, you're not a fan if you don't think we're going to win 10, 11 games. And I said, well, look at the roster. And now you see it.
Without the silver and black colored glasses on. Yes. And look at the other rosters around the league and how they've gotten better. Absolutely. Okay, now we're going out to Josh. Here's Josh.
Hey, Scott, Mo. This is Josh from the Central Valley in California. Yeah, the experiment failed again with JPJ, Jordan Meredith, Alex Kappa, and Dylan Parham. Just horrendous. I mean, we talk about the worst offensive lineman ever, like as far as being a Raider fan in my lifetime. And so we can't continue this continuity amongst the whole line, regardless if it's I can't remember what we're talking about.
There's Josh. He's done. He just checked out right after that. See, people are upset. The thing is, Mo, a lot of people fire this guy, fire that guy. Now, Brennan Carroll, different story. Clearly, he needs help. So, as far as being relieved of his duties, ain't gonna happen. Does Philbin step in and help him? Perhaps. But this fire Pete Carroll, dude, how you want to fire people after 3 weeks? You think that's going to help you? It's not going to help you. It doesn't construct your roster. So these are long-term things that have to be done. This is why we didn't think that they would be more than a 7-8 win team. But the Brennan Carroll thing, he's going to want to help his son save face. It's just natural. But does Philbin get involved? Do you see that as a step? And would it have to be something he declares publicly?
1, I could see Philbin getting more involved. 2, I don't think he would declare it publicly because of what you just said. He wants his son to save face. So you're not going to say, well, Joe Philbin, the reason the offensive line is better now is because Joe Philbin is the one who called making the calls and coaching up the guys. They're not going to say that. So
Right.
if it does happen, it'll happen behind closed doors. I don't care if they say it publicly. I don't care if it's announced. It just needs to get better, Scott. And you can't be whether it's your son, whoever it is, you can't be in denial about how bad that unit looks.
Right.
And you know what, Scott? I will say this though. If you look at those Seattle Seahawks offensive lines, even when Russell Wilson was playing at his peak, those weren't good offensive lines either.
Yeah.
So Pete Carroll doesn't have a good eye for picking offensive. I know we all know Tom Cable was over there at some point.
Twice.
But Pete Carroll does not have a good eye for offensive line coaches. If you look at Seattle's O-lines, they weren't good either. So the track record for Pete Carroll making calls there isn't good.
So there's Mo with the rosy side of things for you. Pete Carroll's history of not hiring good offensive line coaches when the Raiders need good offensive line coaching. All right, out to Raider Dougie.
Hey, Scott. Hey, Mo. This is Raider Dougie in Central Cali. Still the third quarter, but Terry McLaurin just scored a touchdown, 33-10 Raiders. Yeah, we're losing to a backup quarterback and getting destroyed. Mo, I got to give you credit, man. Every year, Nostradamus, man, calling out the worry about Brennan Carroll being the offensive line coach. You nailed it on the head. Just everything you say, man, I mean, it's typically, you're like 90% accurate. And, man, that is the difference. Moving all the offensive line from last year, having them learn new positions. And obviously they weren't good to begin with, but now you're going to change where they're at, which is going to lead to disaster. I hate when I keep hearing every offseason that this team has a different feeling. We feel different. It doesn't feel like someone else, the previous regimes, there's adults in the room. I don't want to hear that anymore. This is the same team year after year. And you know what? I think most of Raider Nation will agree that we just need to rebuild scratch. Like, we got to stop putting Band-Aids on our teams, bringing in old quarterbacks, other players from other teams. Just build from scratch, man. Start with the trenches, offensive line. No more of these fancy wide receiver running backs. If you can't win in the trenches, you can't win football games, right? We need to get some draft picks. We need to just rebuild this team because it's that far away, and it doesn't make any sense to continue to put a Band-Aid on it. This is a bad day. It really tells us where we're at, and yeah, 6-7 win team easily, as I've kind of said throughout the year. It's just, you got to show me the money. It's sad. But anyway, guys, harsh reality today. Have a good one. Go Raiders.
All right, there's Raider Dougie. Mo, it brings up a good question. And again, surprisingly, Murph the other day at the postgame show brought up, hey, if somebody comes and wants Max Crosby, trade him. Like, hey, why wouldn't we listen? Right, is what his point was. And so that's what Raider Dougie's talking about, is even though Pete Carroll, this is where I think fans were at least easily led astray. And that was Pete Carroll and the administration with the Raiders said, no, we're here to compete now. We're not in a rebuild. We heard that before, how many regimes in a row, right? And he said that, no, we want to compete now. We want to win now. So fans expected, and now you have a situation where you're realizing the deficiencies. But even if you trade, what values do you have? You have Max Crosby, yes. But outside of that, you have Brock Bowers. You're not going to trade him. He's under a rookie contract. You're not going to trade Ashton Genty. You just got him as well. The Raiders, do they have some pieces? Yeah, but it's not like draft picks are assured to succeed either. And by the way, we don't know if John Spytek does a good job of that yet. Anyway.
Here's my thought on the way the Raiders built their roster. I'm honest. I'm going to honestly say this, and people are going to laugh when they hear me say this, but I think the Raiders had the right plan to build their roster. John Spytek talked about copying what the Eagles have done to build their Super Bowl roster. It's just they made the wrong moves or didn't make enough of the right moves. Just take a look at what they did. Remember, you said, Scott, they drafted 2 offensive linemen in the 3rd round, but neither of those guys are ready to play right now. Yeah. They signed a veteran guard in Alex Kappa, but he's not very good. They signed Stone Forsyth, but he's not very good in pass protection. He's just a new swing tackle that they let go of Dale Mumford Jr. Forsyth is now their swing tackle, but he's allowed a bunch of pressures over the last 2 years, struggled mightily in Seattle to pass protect. So they have the right idea, build in the trenches and Raider Dougie is completely right, and it's been my philosophy. You build the roster inside out. John Spytek has the same vision and philosophy. He just didn't make the right moves. The guys he
Is
brought
that
in,
talent evaluation, Mo? Is
that's poor talent evaluation.
Yeah.
I'm not a GM. I'm not a scout. I'm not going to pretend that I am. But we can all see that the guys that he signed right now are below average. If you have Alex Cap on a 2-year, $11 million deal, and he's still competing for the job, supposedly, you have Forsythe, who obviously struggled in Seattle. If you look at what he did in Seattle, you have 2 inactive third-round rookies who haven't played a snap yet, and you're trying to win now, really? That tells you that they miscalculated the talent. Poor talent evaluation. Right plan, bad moves.
And you took a slot receiver in the second round. Again, I go back to that. Nothing against Besh. I'm just saying, if you had all these needs at offensive lineman, maybe you take the better offensive lineman in the second round instead of the third round, and they're ready to play. Just saying. All right, off to Rio Raider.
Hey, Mo. Hey, Scott. Just wanted to thank you for everything. This is Rio Raider from Albuquerque, New Mexico, a.k.a. Joe, I guess. And let me just say that I know everybody's I'm upset about the offensive line, but our special teams is atrocious. That guy needs to be fired as soon as possible. We've gotten worse and worse and worse since he took over a couple of years ago. We probably have the worst coverage team in the league, along with the worst offensive line, and our defensive line is not much better either. So I'm lost at what to think of this team. If that same team shows up for the rest of the season, we're winning less than 5 games. There's no way. And the Bears are coming to town, and they just destroyed the Cowboys. The Colts look better. We're the only team in the league that looks worse. Maybe besides the Cowboys, but at least the Cowboys can hang a little bit. They hung with the Eagles. See you guys. Talk to you later. Have a good week, guys.
Rio Raider. Let me introduce you to the Cincinnati Bengals. You want to talk about somebody who looks worse than perhaps the Raiders, but they did lose their quarterback, of course. But still, there's a lot out there. But Mo, he brings up some good points. And I think it goes back to what we just talked about with the previous caller, which was talent evaluation, knowing what you need, going out and getting it, and they just haven't been able to do it.
To the point about the special teams,
yeah,
it's Tom McMahon, who was their special teams coordinator. It was a questionable hire to begin with. I remember when the Raiders put together their stat. Now, he was kept from the previous regime, but I remember when he was hired, I was like, you look at his previous work in Denver, it wasn't great.
Right.
So I can't say that this surprises me, but special teams is so far in the back of your mind, you're not even thinking about it. Like no one gets on a podcast and rails about the special teams unit until the special teams unit costs you a touchdown or two, until a team runs back a punt or a kick return, or you whiff on coverage, or the field goal unit is off. No one talks about special teams until it's a problem. It's kind of like offensive linemen. No one talks offensive linemen until those offensive linemen are allowing sacks. But now it's a problem. Debo Smith goes down the field first play of the game. Jalen Lane, as I say, scores a touchdown. Now we're like, our special teams unit is questionable as well. So we're going further into the season and we're having more questions. Usually it's supposed to be the other way around, where you're supposed to have more answers and solutions to your problems. We're finding popping up with more questions as the week goes on. And it's not a very good sign.
All right, down to Tobacco Road with Tar Heel Tom.
Scott, Mo, hope you guys are doing well after this brutal week 3 loss. I'm glad they at least went ahead and made some kind of a comeback. Ultimately fell short. Before I even get into the negative stuff and the criticism, shout out to Trey Tucker, who had an absolute ball of a game. 145 receiving yards, 3 touchdowns, first time since 2017 that a Raiders receiver has had 3 touchdowns in a single game. Want to shout him out. He deserves it. But this offensive line is going to be a problem. This offensive line is going to plague whatever type of offense that this team can sustain going forward. The Commanders smother Geno Smith way too much, and they do not give Ashton Jeanty any time. Because, look, when Jeanty finally finds the hole, you see the explosiveness. you see what he's made of when he's able to get into open space and find those holes. It's just the offensive line has just been so bad. And my concern is, what needs to change going forward? Because it's week 3 and things just have not improved in that regard. Defensively, I didn't think they were good at all. Way too many touchdowns that it's like, all right, like, what are we doing? But, yeah, what a defeating loss and not the type of response that you wanted to see after losing on Monday Night Football. But, yep. Anyways, Tar Heel Tom, over and out. Go.
Mo, that's the thing. We talked about not effort, but talked about preparation, mentality, coming out with a sense of urgency and fight. And I didn't see that coming off that Monday night loss. I thought both offensively and defensively, the Raiders came out and they looked like they traveled overnight on a red eye to get there.
Golden rule for me, and you can disagree or agree with this sentiment. Good teams come off of bad losses with good performances.
Right.
Bad teams come off of bad losses and they continue to roll down the hill. And the Raiders are just not a good football team. You see the separation. They were able to beat the Patriots, but the Patriots are not a playoff caliber football team. They're rebuilding. They have a new head coach. They have a second-year quarterback. They have a bunch of changes. They brought in a bunch of guys in free agency, and you can see they're still rebuilding their football team. The difference between the Raiders playing a average to below average team and playing a playoff caliber team, we just saw it in the first 3 weeks of the season.
Yeah.
Play the Patriots, they win the game. Not a rebuilding team. I should say not good, but a rebuilding team. They play the Chargers, or whether you like it or not, like to admit it or not, they're a playoff team, and they're probably a Super Bowl contender this year. I'll say it again. They are probably a Super Bowl contender this year. The Washington Commanders made it to the NFC Championship game last year. They're a playoff caliber team, even with a backup quarterback. Now, in my opinion, the Raiders should be more competitive against a team with a backup quarterback. No disrespect to Marcus Mariota, but he is a backup quarterback. There's no reason you should get blown out by 17 points when the team has their number 2 quarterback under center. And by the way, it's not like the Commanders are some juggernaut either. They got squashed by the Packers.
Yeah.
And this is what I said. Good football team comes off a bad loss with a backup quarterback, focused and sharp. And that's what the Commanders were and the Raiders weren't on Sunday.
That's right. All right, we're going out to Misha in Orange County, California.
Hey, guys, what's going on? It's Misha calling from Orange County, California after this abysmal performance against the Commanders. And I said last week, I wasn't going to get too carried away with that loss against the Chargers. It's the second game of the year. We had a rough game. No big deal. It happens. We can move forward. Not going to be so nice this time. The offensive line, our offensive line is just atrocious at best. Absolutely atrocious. I think it's time to pull the plug on this experiment with Pete Carroll's son at the helm of the offensive line. I know we talked about maybe having somebody, come in and, help the guy out. I think I'm ready. I think I'm ready for that. I think I've seen enough of Geno Smith running around for his life to be totally fine with that. And defensively, special teams, absolute disaster. To allow a Washington Commanders team without Jaden Daniels to drop 41 points is just embarrassing, flat out embarrassing. Don't have much else to add to that. You guys saw it. Much love. Appreciate you guys a lot. Talk to you soon.
All right, that was Misha in Orange County. On to Pastor Mike behind bars.
Scott, Mo, Pastor Mike behind bars. Well, here we go again. The offensive line was horrible. I don't know. I think maybe you put JPJ back at center and see how things go. Kappa is definitely not it. Don't know why they benched JPJ and let Kappa start. I heard Pete Carroll's lame excuse at the press conference, but it's ridiculous. And the other thing is zone blocking. I hate zone blocking. It has never worked in the history of the Raiders. It's never worked. We need to go to a power blocking scheme. You put that big boy right there in the middle, and then go from there. It's just super disappointing. And then on top of that, I didn't play Trey Tucker in the Silver and Black Today League today. And if I would have beat Mo really bad. But I guess that's the way it goes. On to the next one, guys. We'll talk to you later.
There's Pastor
Raiders.
Pastor Mike wanting to beat Mo in our fantasy football league, which we'll talk about results for this week on Thursday's show. But yeah, he didn't start Trey Tucker. Of course, the guy I played in my other league, my Cigar Lounge league, had Trey Tucker and started him along with Cortland Sutton. So guess what kind of week it was for me. But anyway, Mo, his point about JPJ, I think it goes back to what you said at the beginning of the show, is they don't think he's that good. Obviously, that he should go back to center. It ain't going to happen.
I'm going to have an in-depth video on the whole JPJ discussion because it needs to be addressed, but I don't know what the issue is there. I can't even say it's that they don't think he's that good. I think there has to be something else going on that we don't know about behind the scenes, because we obviously don't know what the conversations that are had in that building amongst the players, between players and coaches. But there is no excuse for not even considering, Scott. They're not even considering JPJ at center for all we know. They haven't talked about JPJ playing center at any point in the offseason at all. It's been Jordan Meredith, and that's it. JPJ has only been connected to the guard spot, and they have him fighting for the guard position 3 weeks into the season. Something else is going on there, because it wasn't like JPJ was a bad offensive lineman last year. Yeah, he had some penalties.
Sure.
A lot of people pointed out maybe they don't trust him calling out pre-snap coverages, because that's what you have to do as a center. I get that, but they don't even trust him at the guard spot.
No.
Pete Carroll still saying he's competing. So in my opinion, I don't think it's the talent. There's something else going on behind the scenes there.
Yeah, it's a good question. Maybe we'll get some more information at some point. All right, on to Dave Casper, the Ghost.
Hey, boys. Dave Casper, the Ghost from upstate New York. It's the day after that pile of dog excrement we watched yesterday. Wow. I remember calling you when I came out of reverse hibernation over the summer, and I said to you, the record is almost irrelevant to me this season. What I want to see is progress. I want to see a vision. I want to see I want to see progress. I wanted to see something where you can build upon. That through 3 games, that is obviously not the case. The biggest obvious sticking point with this team is their offensive line. It has been getting progressively worse. The 2 guards in center are horrendous. The defense yesterday, even though they were good through the first 2 games, terrible tackling, no pass rush. I don't know where you go from here. They're 1-2. I thought they'd be 1-2 after this game. With Mariota playing, I said, well, there is a chance, but it seems like Raiders think against backup quarterbacks. Can we Andy Dalton anyone or Baker Mayfield in recent history? And they have, it seems like once a year or twice a year, they have one of these games, which is, par for the course. So it doesn't matter who the coaching is. It doesn't matter who the front office is. Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It's the same results. I'm sorry, I'm outside on the streets of, and there's a fire engine going by. I apologize. So I don't know where you go from here. I don't know what you do. You almost have to scrap the playbook, because Gino cannot take a 5-step back. He has to dump these passes off quickly. He can't. He has no time in the pocket. He was being assaulted yesterday. 5 sacks. Terrible. Next week you got the Bears and the Colts. This thing can go sideways real quick. It's already starting to feel that way. I'm like all Raider fans, I'm frustrated from yesterday's performance. Again, I didn't expect them to win, but to play like that is just embarrassing. And And I'm out on Carroll saying, well, this loss is on me. I'm tired of all the kumbaya stuff saying, and Geno Smith saying, no, this was me. I should have been better. No, I don't care. I don't care that the locker room is close knit. I don't care. All I care is about wins and losses and progress. And none of that is happening. So same old, same old. But on the bright side, guys, in a couple of weeks, if it keeps going this way, you can start doing mock drafts, and we will officially be in the Arch Manning sweepstakes.
Oh, no.
All right, boys.
Oh, no.
Talk to you next week.
Dave Casper the Ghost, thank you. Wins, losses, and progress. I like that. That sounds like a T-shirt, Mo.
Yeah, it does.
But, listen, I'm glad he could get it out here on the air with us, that we are your therapy, so we understand. And there's not, I mean, he's repeating what we've been talking about the entire show, but I do believe that, to the point, you can lose games and it still sucks. But if you lose it because it's a close one and people perform well and you just came up a play short, okay. You see hope in that. Hard to see hope in this stuff.
The one silver lining here is what Dave Casper said too. I had the Raiders 1-2 at this point anyway. I had them losing to the Chargers and the Commanders.
Yeah.
I didn't expect Jaden Daniels to not be available, and I felt like they had a better chance, like Dave said, of winning with Marcus Mariota. Apparently not the case.
Right.
But I had them going 1-2 at this point, and I felt like going into this Bears game, coming back home against the Bears, the coach that supposedly was on their radar wasn't, depending on what source you look at. This is a big game. Again, not a must win, but if the Raiders lose and they lose badly to the Bears, not just because of the Ben Johnson connection, but because that would be 3 consecutive bad losses in a row, Scott, my 7-win prediction may drop to 5. Because if you're watching this football team and you're seeing the same problem over and over again, and everyone here is calling it out, and the coaching staff is not changing anything, what are your expectations? Where are your expectations going to be? Like, well, if they're not going to change anything, and then nothing's going to get better. So they have to be. I of course want them to win Sunday, but they can't get blown out Sunday, because if they do, long season ahead.
Yeah, and I say 6 wins, man. I went from I'm down to 6 already because I mean, how are they're going to beat the Chargers? No. Are they going to beat the Chiefs? Even the Chiefs in their lesser version.
And they'll have Rashee Rice by the time they play the Chiefs.
Correct. Twice. Got to play them twice. Got to play Chargers once. You got to play the Broncos twice. Okay. Look, the Broncos are who they are, but they're better. You can't. The Raiders are the worst team in division right now. Anybody who argue with me is stoned, because it's just true. So yeah, it looks rough. And then, like you said, Indianapolis. Now that could turn around at any point because they're winning outside their head, or maybe they just put together a roster that works. And they're in a weak division anyway, but they're playing well. So you're right about the Chicago game. Before they go to Indy, got to go on the road again. 1 at home, 1 on the road. By the way, if they lose to the Bears at home, especially if it's ugly, all Raider Nation advantage in Allegiant Stadium will be gone early in the season, because people aren't going to pay that kind of money to go see a team stink it up. All right, last call of the day. Here we go.
Hey, Scott. Hey, Mo. Ryan Fullerton. Man. Going to be tough calls this week. It happens every time. I'm about to walk into work right now, and I'm just like, this is what came to mind. It's every year, it's a nice little present. It's got wrapping on it. It's got some ribbon on it. It's got a nice little bow on it. To Raider Nation, from Gruden Mayock, McDaniels, Ziegler, AP, ex-girlfriend AP, Tom Telesco, now Carroll, Spytek. And we're all excited. You have these new pieces. You get a lot of energy, a lot of, excitement for the season. And then you open that present up, and it's just socks and underwear. That's all it is. And all that excitement, you get let down for the socks and underwear. I didn't have super high hopes going into the season, but I thought they'd look a little better. I thought they would double their wins, and I think they're a year out. Looking how it's going, maybe it's not just a year out, maybe it's 2 years out. But
I thought this offense would be a little bit more confident. I mean, going into the season, everyone felt like the offense was going to be, pretty good, and it was the defense that was going to be the problem. The defense, I think, is average to above average. They can make stops. They can keep you in the game. But when the offense can't get nothing going and your defense is going back out there, and you're giving that offense more shots on goal, eventually they're just going to start giving things up. But, yeah, I mean, I hope this team, figures it out. I hope they shuffle some things up on the O-line. I think that's the main focus for this team is the O-line. I don't blame Brennan Carroll anymore. Yeah, you could point the blame, but it comes down to Carroll, and it comes down to Spicek, who gave Carroll, those pieces, or collectively. But I hope they shake some things up, and if they don't, that's on them. But anyways, hopefully we get something, a lot better next year, and it's not socks and underwear again. There, guys.
All right, there you go. Although I would argue it wasn't socks and underwear, and that package was a turd. So far, I mean, geez, right? I mean, it's a bad gift, or one of those white elephant gifts, like a chia pet or something.
Yeah, or
I don't know, but he brings up a good point, Mo. Though the thing is, you can have it's like having an airplane. You have this great airplane. It's got great engines. It's got all the equipment you need to take off, but it has no flaps, right? You don't think about the flaps when you're flying in the plane necessarily, unless you're sitting over the wing. But without the flaps to give you the lift, you're not going anywhere. And that's what the Raider offensive line is. It's not giving that chance for this offense to get going at all.
You ever see the meme online where it's like this really nice car parked inside of this like shady like garage area?
Yes,
You have a nice Maserati, but it's like tucked away somewhere. You're not really
trailer
using
park.
it. That's Ashton Genty right now, and I think that's the Raiders' offense because the offensive line is what it is. And we say this, and I think it's not a friendly reminder. It's a dark reminder at this point because the Raiders are playing that your offense, you can have Randy Moss and Terrell Owens and Larry Fitzgerald out there catching passes. You can have, a really good running back, a young stud running back, but they can only do but so much if your offensive line is a weak unit. Your offensive line is the engine of your offense. If the offensive line is faltering, all your skill players, all that talent you have, you cannot optimize it the way you want to because you got to have blocking. That's just the basics of the game, Scott. You have to win, as the callers have said it. You have to win in the trenches. You have to have blocking so your quarterback can get back in the pocket and pick apart a defense. So your running back has running lanes to run through. So while I did disagree with you, Scott, that they should win offensive line over running back, it would work. Ashton Genty would look like a star if the Raiders had adequately addressed their offensive line in free agency and with their other draft picks. And they didn't do that. Like I said, right plan, wrong moves.
There you go. Talent evaluation. The 2 words of the week, folks. Oh, boy. All right. Well, that's going to do it for this edition of Silver and Black today, an Odyssey Sports Original Podcast. Mo, I know you got a couple lives. You got one Tuesday and Wednesday, or just on Wednesday?
Got a Bleach Report live Tuesday, Wednesday. I'll talk about Jackson Powers Johnson. I'll talk about another topic to be determined. I'll drop a article on Sportsnet this week. Don't know what I don't want to talk about the offensive line the whole time because I'll get nauseous talking about it. But I'll find another topic to talk about. Maybe Pete Carroll says something that sparks my mind because talking about the offensive line is depressing, Scott. Maybe I'll talk defense. Maybe I'll talk special teams. Who knows?
Yeah, and if I may suggest one for you,
sure.
Thomas Booker story is a good story.
Yeah.
There's a move that's worked out. I mean, he's hustled a lot despite the defense's poor performance against Washington. Look what he did with Mariota, chasing him 30 yards downfield and causing a fumble. So anyway, there's another bright spot for you. We don't want to leave you all bummed out there.
Yeah, there you go.
That's what we're going to do. So anyway, that's going to do it for us. We will be back on Thursday. We'll have a guest talking about the Chicago Bears, give you a little insight on what's going on there under Ben Johnson. Of course, we'll take more of your phone calls. We'll also get you up to speed on the Silver and Black Today Fantasy Football League. Mo, my friend, I will see you Thursday.
Take care, Scott. Keep your head at Raider Nation.
Oh, yeah. For our producer, Mike Robbie, former Moton, this is Scott Gulbransen. This has been Silver and Black Today. Appreciate you guys subscribing to the show, calling into the show, and being a part of the community. Until next time, take care of one another. We'll see you then.